this is my review of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. Okay, so this episode is a recap episode. Pure and simple. That's all I'm going to say about that. Yeah, this episode is just a recap episode, once again with Veldora and Ifrit actually just providing commentary over all of the things we've seen up to this point, and it's just supposed to catch us all up on all of the things that have happened over the past half a season, because obviously there were slime dives, which was going on in between, so people probably forgot some of what happened in the last part of the season, but I will be covering it because there are some interesting. I will try to cover as best I can because there are some interesting things that do come up in this episode that are things that Rimuru doesn't know. There's information that is actually a little bit interesting in this recap. So yeah, I'll try my best to cover that. But in any case, it starts off with Ifrit and Veldora playing their game that they like to play. And Ifrit finally wins a match against Veldora, and Veldora praises him, pointing out that he's definitely gotten better, but it'll take a while. He still needs to train hard if he's going to actually beat Veldora successfully one day, or at least continuously, because this is apparently the first game that Ifrit has actually won. But when Ifrit points out that they've got plenty of time, Veldora points out that that he may actually not be able to remain behind much longer, and then they proceed to go into the recap. So it does start off where the season originally started, with Rimuru fulfilling his promise to help the kids at Freedom Academy. And something interesting of note is that, and something that's implied in the anime but is more explicitly stated out here, is the story of how is the story of the mask that Shizu actually gave to Rimuru. So Veldora, while he's commentating about it, actually notices that the mask is very similar to the hero who sealed Veldora away a long time ago. If you guys don't remember, that's his backstory and why he's currently sitting inside of Rimuru. He got trapped inside of Unlimited Imprisonment, which Rimuru and Veldora promised to actually wear down so that Veldora can actually escape from it. And so the line of succession is that it went from the hero to Shizu to Rimuru to Chloe. So now Chloe has the mask, and Veldora wonders if it's actually a coincidence that he got the mask back or not. But if she got the mask or not, but then decides against it, and they continue on with the recap, where Rimuru gets confronted by Hinata Sakaguchi, and during the ensuing fight actually praised Rimuru's ability to actually think on the fly and actually think of a strategy to actually beat Hinata and keep her from actually killing him. And they can't help but comment on his ability to use a body double as a stand-in to fight while he hides in the grass, which is actually pretty funny. And both Veldora and Ifrit kind of comment about how it's kind of amazing he was able to plan that far ahead. But in any case, they then get to the part of the war and Rimuru's subsequent ascension into a demon lord. And they comment about how they noticed Rimuru is obviously grieving, and seems to think that, and Veldora seems to think that when everybody's dead, they just kind of go back into the cycle of life and are then reborn, which is kind of how it works, considering that that's exactly what happened to Rimuru, and he still has his old memories from when he was alive. But then it gets to Shion and her death, and Veldora proceeds to reiterate the same thing, pointing out that it's just the nature of life and that she will eventually reincarnate. But they actually do debate about their philosophy regarding death a little bit here. Namely that yes, they understand that Shion's soul will return to the cycle of life and death and will eventually be reborn as a new person. But as they both point out, it's more so mourning the individual rather than just accepting that that's life and moving on. Because as we've established, not only did Shion and Rimuru have a very close bond with one another, and Rimuru very much admired her and as someone he could look up to. But it's ultimately her death that causes Rimuru to start questioning his philosophy of protecting humans and start thinking about and start actually properly mourning her death. And Veldora does admit that he can't really stand seeing Rimuru so sad. And then an interesting point is that prior to actually being sealed inside of Rimuru, Ifrit was in the same boat, used the same philosophy that Veldora uses to justify Shion's death and try to keep himself from grieving that he used to use back when he was fused with Shizu. So yeah, for the longest time, Ifrit didn't really care about the cycle of life and death, since as he points out, everybody's soul got reborn into the next life regardless. So he didn't really see the problem with murdering people, much less with using Shizu's body to do so. And it was ultimately that difference in philosophy that caused him and Shizu to never fully synchronize. That's why they were all struggling for control over Shizu's body, because Shizu took all of Ifrit's sins as her own, and Ifrit just kind of wanted to continue killing people. And it wasn't until he actually became absorbed inside of Rimuru that he finally started to realize that having bonds with people matters. And had that not happened, he probably never would have come to care for life ever. So yeah, blessing in disguise. Yes, Shizu kind of died for it to sink in with Ifrit that death is an important part of a mourning process, and that people do need to learn how to mourn. But it was because he was absorbed inside of Rimuru that I was able to finally figure out that yes, death does mean a lot to a lot of people, and that he should be more respectful of that. But in any case, that line of thinking is actually cut off when it turns out when Eren starts telling Rimuru the story about the legend of the Dragon Princess. And I implied it in my review of that episode, but Veldora just spells it out right here. He doesn't know all the details of the story. He openly admits that to Ifrit, but as he explains, it is indeed Milim in this story. It is indeed Milim in that story about the Dragon Princess and how she became a Demon Lord. So so that does confirm that little tidbit of information that I had that I didn't fully understand. So it was indeed Milim in the story, and that's kind of cool. But in any case, he also senses that Rimuru has since developed a resolve to actually become a Demon Lord, and Veldora and Ifrit can't help but admire that a little bit, pointing out that the willingness to actually kill 10,000 people, let alone bear that sin and ascend to become a Demon Lord, is something that most people wouldn't be able to do. But they can sense Rimuru's resolve to save all of the people he loves, so they realize that he's probably not going to care all that much. But in any case, it then kind of recaps all the different fights that happened between the event, and they also remark that Rimuru clearly has a lot of faith in his subordinates to actually help make sure that he doesn't go down a dark path. And also Veldora remarks that Rimuru doesn't make any idle promises and doesn't make any idle requests. So if he says to do something, and then it's likely not impossible. But that then gets to Megiddo, where Rimuru just kills the entire army of Falmouth with a single elegant sky laser show thing. And Veldora is quick to point out that it's actually a pretty efficient way of actually killing all of the humans that wronged Rimuru. And even remarks that even the most chill people can go apeshit. Case in point, Rimuru is normally a pretty chill guy, but he got messed with his loved ones, and you will see a dark side of him. Also, interestingly enough, that dark side doesn't come out very often. It comes out a lot more in the light novels. Apparently, doing my research on the series. Apparently he has a dark side in the light novels that doesn't come up very often in the manga or anime. Apparently, they wrote that out as part of his character. But apparently, he was a much darker character early on. But afterwards it then gets to him trying to negotiate with the king Admaris of Falmouth, and And again, Veldora can't help but admire Rimuru's patience with the king, as we'll put it. Because as Veldora points out, he would have just run him right through, no questions asked. But he can't help but admire how Rimuru has kind of used his own force of will to actually keep his calm and not kill the king. And both Ifrit and Veldora comment that there's probably a more political reason for that. That if Rimuru actually killed the king outright rather than letting him live, it probably would have extended the war between human and monsters for a lot longer than it should be. So Rimuru was likely doing everyone a favor by not killing the king. He was just trying to ease everybody out of the war because the humans obviously don't think that Rimuru and his followers are an affront to God because they're monsters. But they're trying to actually work. So yeah, Rimuru actually trying to paper over the entire fact that they've had to fight a war. He's doing his best to solve that issue. So it's definitely going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting to seeing how he actually juggles that ball when it comes to it. But in case it then gets to Rimuru's ascension, and what we actually learned through this is that apparently spirits like Ifrit can't actually tell how powerful a demon is. As it turns out, since Ifrit is a very old and very powerful spirit, he can't really tell the difference in power levels between demons. So Veldora has to kind of explain to him that Diablo, previously known as Primordial Black, is a very powerful demon, and points out that that's just how well his disguise as a lesser demon actually works. But in case it then gets to Rimuru actually going into his harvest festival and actually falling asleep, and Veldora admits he's bored because they can't actually see what's actually going on while Rimuru's asleep. So instead he decides to plug away at Unlimited Imprisonment, and only to notice that his ability to actually analyze it has gotten a lot faster. While Ifrit begins to chalk it up to something that Veldora may have ate, Veldora points out that that's likely not possible, but does praise himself on the fact that he's able to actually speed up the process a lot. Although he points out that he's not arrogant enough to say that was entirely his doing. Case in point, he then realizes that Raphael is likely the one doing it, and notices that Raphael is actually awakened and they sense it in unlimited power, and point out that they probably shouldn't cross them. At which point, which is playing alongside Raphael actually reviving all of Rimuru's followers so that they come back to life, and then bestowing gifts on all of Rimuru's friends and followers. Everybody who had a deep personal connection to Rimuru gains a gift. At which point the recap is actually cut off by Raphael appearing inside of Rimuru and going to greet Ifrit and Veldora personally. So Raphael tells Ifrit that he actually needs to train a little bit more to actually become a worthy follower to Rimuru, and Ifrit decides to follow this up by doing push-ups, which Veldora later remarks in the episode does actually pay off. And then she turns to Veldora and tells him that he needs to acquire an ultimate skill in order to actually be useful to Rimuru, which he doubts is actually possible, but she just reassures him that he is, as long as he keeps working on Unlimited Imprisonment, and he will eventually gain an additional skill. And indeed they do that, as Rimuru is actually discussing things over in the recap with his followers and Diablo and everybody else. Veldora actually explains that he actually has gained a unique skill, Faust, which it's unclear what it actually does. He doesn't explain what it does. All he says is that he gained a new skill, name drops it, and then says that when he's eventually released from Unlimited Imprisonment, which Raphael then tells him later in the episode once that part of the recap actually comes up. He points out that when he actually gets freed, he's actually going to maybe do a big show of actually gaining an ultimate skill in front of Rimuru to kind of earn his respect and appreciation. So he's just going to show up being like, so this is the power of gaining an ultimate skill, and hoping Rimuru would just praise him for that. But in case that, then Raphael then tells Veldora that it's actually time for him to be free from Unlimited Imprisonment. It's pointing out that they've actually almost completely analyzed it and can actually break it now. So as Rimuru goes to prepare for the actual for the actual freeing of Veldora. Veldora says goodbye to Ifrit, telling him that he will continue to fight alongside Rimuru. Though as Ifrit tells Veldora, don't do anything. He basically tells him not to do anything reckless. Because obviously, as Rimuru's friend, any actions that Veldora takes that are unwelcome could wind up blowing up in Rimuru's face. So he just tells Veldora to take it easy and not go overboard unless Rimuru absolutely tells him to. But in case Rimuru then proceeds to but in case, as Veldora is proceeding to be reanimated into a new body, Veldora then tells Ifrit that he will come back for him and will actually find a way to free him from inside of Rimuru, and states that similar to Rimuru, he does indeed keep his promises. So he will eventually see him again, and they will continue to pick up where they left off. And with that, it then cuts to the final sequence from the end of the first half of the season, where Rimuru then proceeds to create a doppelganger and has Veldora dwell within it. And again, we don't really see a good shot of Veldora because he's moving around. Because again, he's moving around a lot, and it's kind of hard to get a full view of him. But I'm gonna picture him here anyway, since you're going to need to know what he looks like going into the next season. So we're going into the second half of the season. I'm going to picture him here and hope you guys can see what's going on with him. So he's human. So yeah, the main thing going into the second season is that Rimuru is now Demon Lord, Veldora is now human, and he's actually picked up a great primordial demon as a follower. So yeah, interestingly enough, that's all that you need to know. Also, the war with the war as well, which Rimuru has more or less resolved by killing everybody that isn't the king and the leaders. So yeah, now it's just going into the season where Veldora has been freed, and hopefully that will set everybody else in line. Hopefully nobody is going to be stupid enough to attack the Jura Tempest Federation now that Veldora is free and watching over it. So yeah, that's the main thing. That's the main thing going into this next season. There was a war, and Rimuru put an end to it single-handedly, became a Demon Lord in the process, and now he's set Veldora free, and hopefully Veldora will be able to keep everybody straight while Rimuru thinks of a plan to actually smooth things over. But in any case, that's my review of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter in the description below. Be sure to check out my Patreon if you want to help support me. It's only a couple bucks a month. It helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks. I'm always saying thanks, so be sure to go do that. I also list you on my website if you go and do that. I also post written reviews on my website, but that's beside the point. Go check both of those out if you have the time. And also, if you want to go support me even further, then be sure to check out my Twitch. I stream regularly 2:30 Eastern Standard Time every Sunday, so be sure to go check that out. If you want to see a live stream from me, by all means, go check that out. I'm trying to work out my internet issues, but I think I have done that, and I think I am good to stream for this coming Sunday. So hopefully you guys will actually go and enjoy that. I'll also do a recap of the stream, since I'm not entirely sure how the stream turned out for everybody on the other end. Finally, if you want to see more content from me, then be sure to check out the videos linked in the end screen. The top video is the most recent video. It may or may not be this one, whereas the bottom video is the video recommended to you based on what you've already seen from me. So, if you want to try something new or see more of what you like, then be sure to check both of those videos out. But regardless of whether or not you do any or all of those things, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!